ask you to stand for the pledge, and then I'm going to ask you to stand for the pledge, and then we'll remain standing for a moment. We lost Mayor Anthony Phillips this week, so we thought let's take a moment after the pledge. Please rise. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'm Jill Toman. I'll be sitting in for Chairman Zuckerman this evening. Yeah, please, roll call.
Joe Burden. Dennis Gagnon.
Here.
Peter Lewis.
Here.
Laura O'Connell. Here. Neil Toman.
Here.
Heidi Wendell. Here. And Neil Zuckerman is not here.
Thank you. I also wanted to stop, a little more housekeeping, take a minute to congratulate Bob Flaherty and Judy Farrell on their being reelected to the town board. So, Bob, you do this meeting, you do that meeting, you go on site visits, not an easy gig, so we appreciate your time. Can I approval of the September and October minutes? Anyone want to make that motion to approve? Lori? Laura? Second. All in favor? Aye. I say aye. Correspondence. Oh, no, we have to do the December meeting. We have to vote on that. Okay, so we are not going to have, it's been proposed that we not have a December meeting. Can I get a motion to that effect?
I'll make that motion.
Can I hear a second? Laura? All in favor? I say aye, so that makes the next meeting when? January 18th. Correspondence. Cheryl, you want to go through these for us?
We had a request for return of escrow for KPB Properties. This applicant never appeared. It was back in October 2020, but they are now in the process of reapplying, but their original escrow cannot be applied to the new application, so that's why they're requesting a refund.
Okay. And we have to vote on that?
Yep.
Okay.
But it's just to inform the town board that escrow should be released. The town board actually votes to release it.
Correct.
Okay, so we don't need to vote on that?
No, you do.
Oh, we do.
They're over saying it's okay to release the escrow.
Okay.
The town board actually releases it on your recommendation.
Thank you, Steve. Motion to that effect?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. I vote aye. Second, Cheryl, please. Request for 6 months extension.
Of site plan approval
Stepping Stone,
for Stepping Stone. Do you want me to read the letter?
please.
Dear Planning Board Chair and board members, on behalf of the applicant, we respectfully request a 6-month extension of site plan approval. We are working with the Putnam County Department of Health on the public water supply. Due to the required testing and submissions to the Putnam County Department of Health, which took longer than anticipated, we were unable to secure the DBOH approval within the 6-month timeframe. All other required permits have been secured and resolution items addressed. No changes to the plans are anticipated. We will submit the plans for planning board signature once we have the received Putnam County Department of Health approval. We respectfully request to be placed on the next available agenda for the 6-month extension. Very truly yours, Brian Stokoza.
All right, so we have a request for an extension that is not the fault of the applicant. They're being held up by other agencies. So can I get a motion to extend, grant the 6 months extension of the site approval?
I'll make the motion.
And second.
Second.
And all in favor? I vote aye. Public hearings. Cheryl, do we have any public hearings
Nope.
scheduled for tonight? No public hearings tonight. So we'll start off with Garrison Golf Club, please.
Hi, good evening, members of the planning board. Adam Stallaro from Side Paget and Roselle on behalf of the applicant, Hudson Valley Shakespeare Festival. So sorry. Do you want me to start over? Okay. Hi, Adam Stollerow, Cy Pageant and Roselle, on behalf of the applicant Hudson Valley Shakespeare Festival. We are here tonight seeking the planning board's approval of the proposed statement of findings for the conclusion of the environmental review under the secret process. We've reviewed the draft findings that were prepared by AKRF, and we did not have any comments or issues with those, and would like to request the board's approval so that we can move on before the town board and seek their approval on the zoning amendment before we come back to you for site plan and subdivision approval.
Thank you. I'm sorry, your name again?
Adam Stollerow.
Adam, thank you. And Ron, we'll go right down the row. We'll go Ron, Steve, and Aaron. I don't know if Aaron's weighing in on this. Oh, yeah, you are. Okay. Go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, AKRF has prepared a draft finding statement that was reviewed by my office. There was coordination between us to develop this draft, and we have no more comments on it.
Steve?
The finding statement is the final step in the secret process. I believe it was circulated to the board a couple of weeks ago. Ron had some comments. Those were incorporated into it. I had none. I haven't heard any back from the board. Of course, you're free to discuss it tonight and decide if you want to add or detract anything from it, but that aside, the next step will be to vote on whether or not to accept the finding statement,
Okay. So we're here to approve the finding statement.
if that's the board's pleasure.
That's what we're here to do. So we're going to start down the end. Heidi, if you want to have any comments, we'll move down this way. Do you have a microphone?
I guess not. It looked like it incorporated everything AKRF requested, and that was discussed at the last meeting, which I missed, but I read the minutes. So I guess, it looks like everything that people requested has been incorporated. I'm still a little unsure of how current noise complaints are being taken into account in light of the fact that the eventual construction will not be that similar to the current tent. But that bothers me a little bit because, you have people currently complaining, and kind of the answer to that is, well, we are going to consider all the noise complaints in conjunction with what's here in the finding statements, and the noise levels may be different with the new construction. And I really like the fact that the noise will be measured at the area, the addition you made, Neil, at the last meeting, I guess. So I guess I don't have, other than all this verbiage I've just expelled, I guess I don't really have any comments. I reserve the right to comment based on other people's
always.
comments, but
Sure.
that does kind of still bother me that there's neighbors that have been complaining about noise, and I don't know that we have a really great answer to that in saying, well, the later construction will be different. So, well.
Oh, I get it. I expressed my concerns about that last month as well. Laura? I'm sorry, Laura.
I don't have any comments. I think that AKRF's comments and Ron's comments have all been integrated, and I think it's ready to move on.
Dennis?
I think it's pretty well covered, so I'm okay with it.
Peter?
I also feel it's pretty well covered. I understand Heidi and Neil's, excuse me, concerns and the community's concerns about any noise, but we do have code regulations that have to be met, and I think they will be by Shakespeare, responsible group. So I feel good with it so far.
Okay, thanks. I want to thank Ron and Aaron for putting this together. I think it's all well incorporated also. I did run into an issue on page 7, and this goes back to something that I had brought up a couple times, was you seem to have laid out with some specificity the number of units for the artist/guest lodging and amenity buildings. and that building envelope. And I had expressed some concern about that probably 8 months, a year ago. And was assured that we'd be taking another look at that during the site plan approval process. But it seems pretty firmly baked into the FEIS. So my question is how, and this is a question for Aaron, I think, is how tied to we are this if we do come back with some objections to both the number of units and the nature of the layout. I've been advocating for more of a dormitory style like we have at Graymore, Walter Hoving Home, St. Basil's. All these people had sort of housing issues, temporary housing. I should have said that at the beginning. This is all being floated as temporary housing. So Aaron, could you give us some idea of if we approve this, does that close the conversation on the number and the types of buildings, or are we still in a position where we can review that during the site plan approval?
Well, first of all, Aaron Werner, AKRF, consultant to the board. For the artist lodging, there's 2 areas on the site plan, and I think they have them up there, the east side and the west side. They are very conceptually shown on the site plan. They are very close together, almost attached structures, but they are shown as detached structures. For the purposes of the seeker review, the unit count was important because it was factored into the traffic study and trips, right? So right now it's 26 units is what they're looking at in total. So if they come in, when they come in for site plan, and they still want 26 units, but maybe the buildings are closer, or an attached form, or a dormitory style. But if they're still in the relatively same location as they're proposing, the area of disturbance is the same, but they're going to change the architecture maybe, or, because really they haven't given us any architecture as part of the EIS process. We really looked at it as far as density. Trip making for traffic was really the big issue with the artist lodging. They showed us precedent images of what they could look like, but they're going to have to go through a full site plan architectural review with you when they're ready to come back. But if they do want to increase the unit count, that would probably need to be looked at again in seeker, because you're adding density. If they take away units, not so much, because you analyze the worst case. So I think if you go forward with this finding statement tonight, you're approving the overall environmental impact statement. It's the last step in the seeker process. It just permits them to go to the town board to get their zoning updated, and they have to come back with a very detailed site plan and subdivision process with you again. And that's when you're going to look at architecture for everything, the theater, these buildings. And again, these are also proposed in phase 2, which is very far down the line as far as what they've told us. The first phase is the theater, back of house structure and parking. The second phase, which could happen 5 or 15 years down the line, is where these artist lodging units come into play. So you're definitely not just looking at them now. You're
Thank you.
gonna see them again.
Right, the idea being approving this tonight does not preclude us from revisiting the number, the number.
The numbers-
It's still to be determined.
Okay,
Somewhat. Right, okay, so we're not tied to the 26 units, nor are we tied to the location and the number of buildings and the location. So I've said this a couple times, what I don't want to have happen is get into the site plan review and make comments that I'm going to make, and have you say, well, that ship sailed with the seeker review, all right? So just trying to keep everybody on the same page here, all right? Any other comments? Anybody else?
Add one more thought.
Sure.
Just so the board's aware, this is basically more or less an executive summary of the whole process we've gone through. It was 30 pages, unfortunately, but there was just a lot of topics covered. But the most important piece of it is it's written in a way that is in a positive light, right? It's called positive findings, meaning that when you certify this, you're certifying that this is an approvable activity. And I want to point your attention to section D, which is page 34, right towards the end, right before the roll call vote. A certification to approve, fund, or undertake. And this is really the whole essence of what a finding statement is supposed to do. And if you approve this, basically there's 4 points there that you're certifying. One is, and I'll read through them. One is that you're certifying that the requirements of seeker, which is 6 NYCRR Part 617, have been met.
Okay, hang on, it's 33, I think. You said 34, page 30.
I have it on 34.
What is it? I've got it on, okay, just saying, we got it on 33.
Oh,
Sorry
sorry.
to interrupt, go ahead.
Yeah, Section D. Number 2, consistent with social, economic, and other essential considerations from among the reasonable alternatives available, the proposed Hudson Valley Shakespeare Festival project as set forth in the FEIS is one that minimizes or avoids significant adverse environmental impacts to the maximum extent practicable. So that's really why, every topic in this talks about what were the potential impacts, what are the mitigation measures proposed by the applicant to address those. You found those to be the most reasonable and practicable measures when you approve this. Number 3, consistent with social, economic, and other essential considerations to the maximum extent practicable, significant adverse environmental impacts identified in the environmental impact statement will be minimized to the maximum extent practicable or avoided by incorporating as conditions to the decision the mitigation measures identified as practicable in the EIS and this finding statement. And then number 4, this written finding statement contains the facts and conclusions used by the planning board to support its decision.
Okay. Thank you, Aaron. Any more comments on this before we vote? So Aaron, we understand where we're coming from too. We're going to vote. We have some apprehension about noise and about the building layout, but I think we're ready to take a vote. Can I get a motion to approve the finding statement of the FEIS?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
And a second, all in favor? Aye. All in favor, and I vote aye. Okay. Thank
What
you.
I'll do is, this is a draft still, what I'll finalize with the roll call vote, the date, PDF it, and send it back to Cheryl.
Great.
Very good.
Thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
for the board's work on this.
Next up, we've got RKB Materials. We had our site visit there last week before the Krasniqi application.
Ready?
Go ahead, Jason. Thanks.
Jason Snyder with Beatty and Watson for RKB Materials. Just to recap, we had the Conservation Board referral meeting on Tuesday. They decided to schedule a site meeting for December 1st at noon. So we got that going on. So we should have that for the next, hopefully we'll have that letter for the next submission to the planning board for that referral. Didn't seem like there was anything that they were really concerned about. They just wanted to visit the site, basically. Obviously, we had the site meeting with the board here on November 5th, and if you wanted to discuss anything that you had to think about since then, I'm not really sure where we left off, to be honest with you. I don't think there was a whole lot of discussion with regard to at the meeting with what was going on. So we did discuss some pavement areas, which we have added to the site plan here. We didn't have, the meeting was on the 5th, so we didn't have time to make this submission for this meeting, but he does want to pave with asphalt the first, I think we discussed this, right?
We did.
Yeah. So he decided, so we want to pave the first, it's about the first, I'd say 50 feet of the entrance, and then a haul road to to the garage and parking area for the two trucks that are gonna be outside of, the garage. So we got the 4 trucks in the garage and 2 trucks, parked outside. So this area will be, have recycled asphalt, millings, along this Hall Road, and also the parking area, around where this, machine shed is here. So basically there'll be a pad in the front that'll be recycled, the recycled asphalt that he will freshen up every once in a while. And that's, as far as changes go, that's about it. But we have all the testing done for the septic system. We should have that. That should be going out to the health department tomorrow, hopefully. It's pretty straightforward. It's a very small septic system.
It's just a half bath, right?
Yeah,
Servicing just
yeah, exactly, yeah. Yeah, for the office, toilet and a sink. And that's about it. I think what we're looking for tonight is to schedule a public hearing for, I guess now it's gonna be, January, but.
January 18th, right. Any comments from the board? No? Asked and answered. Yeah, thanks for doing the, putting in the concrete in front of the apron and at the
Oh, yeah,
entrance.
yeah.
And you have some sort of riprap or something going down at the exit to knock off the tires?
Yeah, well, we were gonna pave the entrance. That's what we have now, we have riprap.
Yeah. Yeah, so during construction, we'll have the riprap.
Yeah.
And then it'll be paved with like a little, we'll pave it and and have a little swale there that's going into this, the catch basin there. But it'll be paved.
Okay, all right.
I mean, by the time, by the time the trucks get back out over the recycled asphalt and over the pavement, it should be.
Right. Just
Yeah.
trying to keep it from getting out in the street and down,
Sure.
you know, MS4 stuff, you know. how-
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, yeah,
you know where I'm
definitely.
coming from.
That's good.
You know
That's
where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
So I guess, can we get a motion to schedule a public hearing?
Yes, I'll make that motion.
And second? And all in favor? Aye. I vote aye. Thanks. Thank you, Jason.
All right, great. Thank you very much.
Pardon me? Hearing will be on the 18th, correct?
Yeah, I'm afraid so, and they gotta keep it up and all that, whole 9 yards. It's just the way the code's drafted.
Next up, we have help me with this, Krasniqi. Krasniqi. Okay. Krasniqi. Go ahead, sure.
So,
Just
good evening.
Give us your name and where you're from.
Sure. So good evening. My name is Rich Williams. I'm with Insight Engineering, and as you know, I'm accompanied by Tim Krasniqi, who's the owner of the property. We initially presented this before you on October 19th, at which point I think you declared your intent to be lead agency and subsequently did a secret distribution. Following that, we've obviously had a site walk on November 5th, which my colleague Adam Thyberg was in attendance for, and I understand was well attended. And then following that, we appeared before the Conservation Board on November 14th and had some comments from them. We'll be going back before them to address their concerns, which primarily stemmed with secondary containment around the tanks, asking for all the specs that we're using as far as the tanks themselves, the dual wall rating, our fueling area, how we actually connect the truck to the fueling area, and a little bit about the smart pump system we're going to use, which is a electronic system that's used to at the connection point for the truck to the fueling station to ensure that there are no spills. It's basically a box that you make the connection within.
So I'm going to need you to speak up.
Sure. It's basically a box that you make the connection within, which has electronic sensors and also has containment at that point of connection, just to make sure it catches drippage when we're unloading and fueling. So we're going to provide the specs for that. They asked that we do a wetland delineation. So we're going to have a consultant come out and confirm there aren't any wetlands on the property and make sure there aren't any surrounding the creek across the street. And then they are also scheduling a site visit, which will tentatively be on December 1st.
Okay.
So that being said, we're really here tonight to discuss the site walk with the board, answer questions that you may have. And then I understand we're a major application, so I'm assuming at some point in the process we'll have to schedule a public hearing.
Right, okay. Thank you for the update from the board. Sounds like they gave you some homework.
Yes.
So could you just bullet point us for us now?
Yep.
Just real quick.
So-
Go over that again.
They wanted to understand what form of secondary containment we'd be using, if there would be any, beyond the dual walls of the tanks. And as of right now, there are no plans for additional containment. Again, this facility, in addition to being regulated by your board, will have to go through permitting with DEC and others for the petroleum bulk storage, and we're going to construct the site in accordance with all of those regulations. We spent some time talking about the equipment that we're going to be using. Okay, they want to see specs for all the equipment, namely the fueling station, the fueling area. We spent time talking about that smart pump system, which is the actual area where we make the connection to transfer fuel back and forth between the trucks, because I think we're all familiar with fueling our cars. It's always right at that point where you can get a couple of drips. So in a facility like this, it's a smart pump system, and Tim can talk about it in a lot more detail, but it's simply a box that surrounds the point of connection between the truck's line and our lines.
Well, we don't have to get into it too much.
So,
We're talking
yep.
just, I want to know what your list is.
That is.
Because you're going to come back here and you're going to give us the same information that you gave to the Conservation Board.
Yep, so
eventually.
we spent time talking about that. They asked us again to have a wetland delineation, which we're going to have done. And they wanted to understand if there was going to be any containment under the canopy. Again, that comes back to the smart pump system. And then they wanted to schedule a site visit for themselves.
Okay,
That was the list.
all right. So we have some concerns, obviously. So we're going to I'm going to put the comments to the board. What I have here, what expected action item for tonight is discuss the site visit and decide if the public hearing should be scheduled. So I kind of want to hear some feedback from the board about the site visit and what you think about the whether or not we're ready for a public hearing. So Heidi?
Well, there were a lot of comments made at the site visit. They included how many trucks will be going in and out of the property, the fact that there potentially would be a tractor trailer that would be fuel containing. So, and I think there was a request made for a schedule for the trucks, and the exact number of trucks, the size. I think there was, some concern expressed about the the largest size truck. So that's one item, which is the trucks. Another, the fact that, to have 90,000 gallons of fuel at that site right near the Clove Creek aquifer, near the Clove Creek and on top of the aquifer, was creating concerns, and that need to be examined. I don't know whether part of the wetland delineation has to do with that, in terms of the comments from the Conservation Board. But there were definitely questions about that raised at the site visit, for sure. Some concerns raised about the lighting, because there's relatively close neighbors, and, you know, how long the lighting, how much the lighting would, you know, interfere with the enjoyment of the neighbors' properties, and you know, there's woods, you know, on some of the parts of that area. Whether the lighting would be on at night, there were concerns raised about security, whether, you know, what kind of fencing there would be for the tanks, what kind of security there would be in case of vandalism or that type of, whether anybody could get through and impact the tanks. The clear cutting of the site was another concern that was raised at the site visit. I mean, it's pretty clear that the site would be basically clear cut. Some concerns were raised about what would happen as invasives took over the buffer with East Mountain Road, whether there was going to be any attempt to make sure that that wasn't just like a sort of skanky area of, you know, that it would be like actually a buffer and not just, you know, vines dragging down trees and just creating an eyesore that would not, in fact, screen anything. How many employees were going to be there? And, yeah, I think that's all I recall, and, yeah, from the site visit, pretty much.
Thank you, Heidi. Lori? Laura?
Sorry, me to go through and answer, or do you want me to hear all of it at once?
No, let's stick with the board and then,
So first I want to say thank you, Heidi, for having such a wonderful memory, because
I should have said spills, too. Spills.
because I do remember all of that, except you remember it more than I do. I guess I'm just asking from a process standpoint. There were a lot of comments and a lot of questions that were had at the site visit. I'm assuming, as the applicant, that you had heard and you took notes and you have all of that. Like, can we not have that as like the bullet points, just so that we make sure that whatever you're answering and whatever you're addressing has all been captured from the site walkthrough? Because, I mean, I get it, like, you know, we want to make sure that, you know, you're answering all the questions, but if there were questions that were asked at the site walkthrough, and we don't remember them because we didn't take the notes, you're the applicant, and so I'm going to assume that you're going to be required and you're going to be the one that's going to answer it. And so my question is, can we ask the applicant to generate all of the things that they had heard at the site walkthrough for us to then review to make sure that it's captured everything that both the community and the board has heard at the walkthrough, so that we know what we're going to be hearing or what we're going to be seeing at the public hearing?
well, I think, you know, I think you were taking notes at the site visit, so you're.
We're happy to do that, and we're happy to provide that with our next submission. I also would like to remind the board that as part of this process, I'm going to guess that we're going to have a public hearing because it's a major site plan, and the public will be afforded the opportunity on the record, in addition to the sidewalk, to also make their comments known, and we'll be responding to those as well. So, but yes, we're happy to, we did take notes, and actually, your notes align with a lot of the discussions that we had, and I can reiterate some of those answers tonight for the record.
Dennis?
Thank you. What I'd like to see is illustrated on a site plan, the turning radius for the large tanker trucks. I'm concerned with that they're actually going to be able to make that, and I'd like to see it on paper. Even though it shows on paper, it might work on paper, but if somebody misses that sweet spot coming in, there's a lot of potential problems, and I could see a concern coming back later on if this project goes through, that they're going to ask for a hardship approval to exit onto East Mountain Road North. So that's a concern, that it's actually going to work.
We're happy to do a turning maneuver plan.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Dennis. Peter?
Well, I wasn't at the site visit, which I apologize for, but of course, this is just it can easily become an environmental nightmare, or mare's nest, I guess, more like, not nightmare. And I think that the points made here clarify that. And the whole point is to clarify, make it clear, make it crystal clear to the community what the project entails, the potential pitfalls that may be there that should be addressed. And it sounds like that's exactly where we're at. So I'm good with it.
So, thank you, Peter. So you have, sounds like you have your work cut out for you. So you have the comments from the board, you have the notes from the site visit, and you have comments from the Conservation Board. So I'm going to pull a page out of Neil Zuckerman's playbook and say that I could call for a vote on a public hearing, but I don't think it's going to go your way.
No, and I'm fine with that, and we're here to work with the board.
So
And
just again, just so we're all kind of understanding where we are in the process, and I think we have a little more discovery, for lack of, we need to know a little bit more before we get into the world of a public hearing. So next moves, I guess we ask you to come back get yourself on the agenda for the 18th, and I'm sure you'll be ready to answer our questions.
Okay, would you like any of I mean, I know we talked about staffing, lighting at the site walk. Do you want to talk about any of that tonight, or should we just respond in writing at this point?
I think probably, rather than, because I don't think that's fair to you, actually. I think we're going to come back on the 18th, and kind of having done this for doing it for a while, answer them, be concise, be thorough, all these things that I know you know already, but,
Understood.
And then I think we'll go through them then, rather than have a back and forth now. I think we'll have our chance to do that on the 18th.
Okay.
Very good.
Excuse me, what time is that site visit on the 1st?
We're actually trying to reschedule it at the moment, so we don't have a confirmed time yet.
Sure, I'll let you know.
I'm sorry, would you identify yourself at the mic? Okay. I think that.
Have a great night.
We don't have a motion, we don't have any actions to take. Can I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
And second, all in favor? Aye. Thank you.